in place, you can give children plenty of love. Discipline without love leads to children who grow up harsh and mean-spirited. My motto, cuddle but do not coddle. I remember spanking my children, but also kissing wherever that switch hit. That simple act meant I disapproved of what they were doing, but I still loved them. That's the balance that is key to everything else. Now, I'm going to say something. I won't tell you the whole, you have to get the picture yourself. Teddy's been, when he gets it grown, he was grown and he's in Hollywood now. Well, Mom, you always do. I remember you switching me. I remember you talking about spanking. I said, yes, but I kissed everywhere I struck, which means I kissed your... He hasn't said it since, okay? So, that's what I did. Anyway, I gave my children chores to do at home. It's excellent training for future work habits. As the children grew up and wanted extra money, they had to earn it. Paper routes, washing and polishing cars. Ted even took an after-school job as a janitor at Oakland Tech High School. At age 16, wait a minute. Teddy took an after-school technical high school while attending there. He later became a student body president while he was a janitor. At age 16, they were moving in with his family. A wealthy businessman who had suffered. My youngest son, James, had a sandwich business when barely out of his teens. He bought all the products and handmade the sandwiches himself, and one of his main clients was Kaiser Industries, where he had previously worked as a mail clerk. I reminded my children of how my father expressed his love to my mother by bringing her coffee to bed with a kiss on the forehead every morning of their 48 years together. If they wanted to be a king, I informed them, they would have to have a queen, and they could begin with me. When Ted and Mike were barely 6 and 7 years old, I would make the coffee, and they would take turns bringing it to bed with a kiss on my forehead every morning. To learn about love, you have to do loving things. You could hear the grumbling all the way to the kitchen. Then one morning, I overheard them arguing about whose turn it was to bring Mommy's coffee to bed. I suggested they team up, and one could bring the cup and one could bring the saucer. Now, I'll get on to TV because my time is running out. And but did you enjoy those little? I mean, they're simple things. But if a hug can keep you from growing up and be a murderer, I mean, these things are not unimportant, But anyway, so let me get over here to TV and say that just to give you some of the things that I'll tell you this. Okay, I'm going to talk about. I got in trouble in television right after I got in because I saw some of the things they were doing. I wanted me to do a show asking young black mothers. I grew up in this community, so most of the people watching knew me, asking them to bring their kids in for a vaccination for sickle cell. And they were gonna, you don't want to be worried about sticking needles in. And the black doctors didn't like it. It was mandatory testing. So I went against it, and they were very upset. But I also gave a speech, and I'll read that speech, and then I'll get on to a few of the things on TV, and then we'll take Q&A. The trouble began when I gave a speech to the 1970 to the West Conference, a group of Western educational broadcasters, at the Jack Tar Hotel in San Francisco. Sherm Bazell was my first director. He said, "No, Jerry, they want you to get up and talk about how happy you are." I said, "Yeah, I can't get up there and tell 400 white broadcasters I'm happy." They were from PBS. I can't tell them I'm happy. I'm up here fighting every day with these men about what they're trying to make me do. So he said, "Well, if you're brave enough to go in, I'll cover your back," which he did. So this was my speech. It got me in. How many people have heard of Arnold Toynbee in London? The world's living greatest historian.
Yes.
Who they used to say was prejudiced, but after I met with him, I think, he was very gracious to me, and he was not. I go in there, I can't read it in the book, but it's in there. When I was in London, I didn't know that nobody had seen Arnold Toynbee. I said, well, I want to see him because of what he said about World War II, and that's a whole bunch of stuff. But they said, well, nobody sees Arnold Toynbee. He's sick, he got a heart attack, and this, that, and the other. So all in here, how it went. So I said, well, hey, I'm from Oakland. He could say no. I heard no so much. Right. And these guys, that don't bother me at all. And I tell my students, Keep asking, you'll never know what'll happen. Because he's been called a racist, this and all that. But I didn't know about the racism, see. I just know that I wanted to see this guy because I liked what he said about who the real victors were in World War II. Anyway, they said, well, we'll send you his address and you write him a letter. They just knew he wasn't going to come. I didn't know why they thought he wasn't going to come. He wasn't going to call me. I sent him this speech, of which only a part is in the book. I sent him the copy of that speech. He called my hotel the next day he received that letter and said, this is Arnold Schwarzenegger. Can you come to I want to talk to you. And he was all excited about talking to me, and I didn't get it. You know, because they said he wasn't seeing anybody. I didn't realize that after I found out that he really loved this speech. So I'm going to read it to you. And turned out no one had seen him for 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
And I told the guy, I said, why is everybody asking about Arnold Toby? He said, well, don't you know nobody's seen him in 5 years? They're ashamed to tell you. I said, well, he writes for the London Times, doesn't he? He said, yeah, but he mails it in. I said, well, he's seeing a group of Japanese businessmen tomorrow because he told me. So he didn't want to see no more British because he was finding out that their history probably didn't. He finally found out they were lying in their history. I don't know what they. He saw me and let me call him into it, and then wrote a letter recommending me to the FCC when my name went up to be on the board of FCC a long time ago. I didn't get it, but he wrote a letter on his Institute of Royal this, Royal that, patron Her Majesty the Queen. And he said, I based my recommendation based it on the work we did together when you were in London. 2 hours is all I said. And I say in here, boy, that was awfully nice for a guy that I only spent 2 hours with, you know. But my point is, it's now framed in the Berkeley Historical Society. Oh. Wow. Anyway, this is a speech I said to 400 white broadcasters. In a world of images, we see each other through a glass darkly. If we see each other at all, we have built a technological machine that requires us to go to other lands rich in natural resources to feed this machine. We justify our presence there by liberating the people from a fate worse than death, self-determination. As the machine grows bigger, it dehumanizes us. I wrote this in 1970, and it's printed in a book, so I have the date. We stand before it, as the machine grows bigger, it dehumanizes us. We stand before it powerless. This machine has become so complex that it has also caused us to pollute our environment. Through ignorance and greed, the air has been rendered unfit to breathe, water unfit to drink, food unfit to eat. We are in trouble all over the world and on the brink of disaster at home. What kind of man destroys the thing that gives him life and creates a crisis which threatens our very existence as a species on this planet? We are concerned, Black Americans, because we want to live. This is why we find it urgent to invade the media to try to get some kind of message to you. The audience, though stunned, gave it a warm reception. And I put in the book here later on, nobody will, the people that, this is the first anybody will hear of this speech, the publication of this book, because it made none of the newspapers. Downtown San Francisco, the Jack Tar Hotel, 400 broadcasters, people in broadcasting, one thing that big in the Sacramento Bee. So nobody, they will read the speech the first time in this book. And that's so much if you want to know if your papers are they telling you the truth every day, or are they holding back what they don't want to tell you? So we are censored, so we don't have to worry about that. Now let me get over to some of the things about media that the magic of television. Okay, this is what you want to hear about what happened. There was the Surgeon General. They have a Surgeon General always in Washington, D.C. This man did a study on the impact of television violence on children. And he came up with these reports that he put out. He's told them the impact of what happens to children when they see violent games, violent TV, pictures. You ought to know your brain is soaking it up. Next thing you know, he was gone. Fired, watered down the report, and even if you get the report from 1968, it's with whatever they took out of it. So he was trying to warn us in 68, but he's gone. So these are the things that are happening. And they don't tell you that I put here now, currently magic is being performed over something that belongs to you, the airwaves. It has become the new storyteller, which according to Kate Moody, in her book Growing Up on Television, quote, is sanctioned by neither family nor religion nor school board. Its easy accessibility has stripped parents of their control. End of quotes. See, if you don't read, you don't see. Right. This book is out, 1960s. Moody continues to say that countless people who grew up on scary fairy tales, violent Bible stories, radio thrillers, and comic and film gore are nervous about the generation now growing up on television violence. Like print, radio operates in the theater of the mind, where your imagination then makes pictures. But nothing about mass media makes us more uncomfortable than the idea that the quantities of video violence produced in America and consumed around the world might be contributing to the growing epidemic of aggressive behavior. This is written in the 60s. You don't think they reviewed this book because don't look for it. Just a Series is her revelation that reading requires a physical technique in which the eyes move. And what is not generally realized is that television trains the eyes not to move. Scientific studies, which of course never made the press, have demonstrated that eyes move less while watching TV than in almost any other activity of daily living. As Norman Cousin points out in his introduction of Growing Up on Television, we haven't thought through the connection between the welter of images that are put into the human mind and their effect on the formative years. We haven't thought through the long-term effects of children of 6 hours of television viewing daily, the effects of rapid-fire picture changes, the effects of discontinuation and fragmentation of ideas, thoughts and feelings, the effects of unremitting violence and corresponding desensitization. Now, haven't you noticed that they've speeded up? They have pixels or something. Somebody told me they pixels. What they do now, you're looking at one thing and they switch to something else. You wonder, was that another show? And on the commercials, they're going. Well, see, they know what that's doing, but they're making you force to change your whole rhythm of your body because you have to go. And you're like that, and you don't think anybody's messing with your mind. They're messing with your mind. It keeps you from you get off through with that, and you can't concentrate.
Yes.
And then you got that welter of every time, if you don't stick your tongue out when you kiss now on TV, you aren't kissing. You got to understand, and these little teenagers are doing it. So anyway, so now I just want to say that. What about television in developed countries where reading skills are already high? Some European countries are rejecting American inputs of children's programming because it teaches them to read and write, but not to think. And they were talking about Sesame Street. I was there in London, and I met with Lord Lou Grade, had dinner at his house, went with the 108 broadcasters. Then I asked him why we don't. He tells about why his stuff. He sent all the good stuff over here. The Shakespeare and all that, and it never hit. He stopped doing it. He says, you guys only play, you don't get, we get classy things all day long and get the mind going and they get hungry for it. You only feed them TV violence and that's all they want. So all of his hits came over here. Lord Lou Great is what told it, What about a television developed country? As I say, they teach us not to think. That's why only that Silicon Valley bunch of the brains of this country now. They went down there and they're nerds. They had to call them a name, see? But they were down there studying, and now who's running that show? Steve Jobs is dead and he's still running it, okay? But anyway, this should say something important to American parents. A whole generation of our children have grown up under the influence of television. Some reading before they enter the first grade, but can they think? Are they being prepared to solve problems? Are they capable of independently thinking something through? This is why you got a think tank and nobody's thinking. They're giving you the over and over and over again. And a cursory glance just shows how malleable that generation is before the throne of the television tube. It sells products and it creates role models. It dictates behavior and alters language. Remember the drop the pants? Until it made the news, who would have known? British, and I asked the British, what is different about us? British broadcasters have described the BBC as a network which caters to a public demanding to be educated and informed, while our television caters to a public demanding to be entertained. Why are we different and how do we get that way? For one thing, we're constantly being fed entertainment as reality. Think on that one.
That's right.
The reality shows weren't even on
Yeah.
then, but now they got them. The failure, who can live without the Kardashians? Can you sleep well at night when she's hurting? I don't think so. For one thing, she's constantly being fed. I hate to be a jokester, but it's so funny. And that's why God laughs at us all the time. For one thing, we're constantly being fed entertainment as reality. The failure to see the thin line between serious programming and entertainment has added to our confusion between fantasy and reality. We don't know what's real anymore. Then there is entertainment as entertainment. Pure entertainment without a balance of programming dealing with human problems can be dangerous. As Dr. Roderick Gorney has put it in a research proposal entitled Human Survival and the Mass Media of Entertainment. It wasn't even a book. He gave me the manuscript. And I read it. This is what he said. Entertainment has served as an ancient distraction from misery, refined by the Romans into an effective method of controlling people by diverting them from reality. Wow. In other words, it releases people into the world of fantasy as a means of control. And that's what I said in the opening with this science fiction guy. Said, guess what? There's much around you can't see because somebody's directing you to look somewhere else. This powerful medium should be preparing people to deal with problems of human survival, using television to elevate the mass level of education, to better understand why we no longer have control of our lives, to use available information to solve problems, is truly using television in the public interest. But this will not be done until the public understands that the airways belong to the people, not to the FCC, not to the broadcaster, and not to the advertiser. That's why these reporters get them. They go, we got the First Amendment rights. They got the rights because they're supposed to protect you, and they're not. Okay, they are the FCC, not to the FCC, the broadcaster, and not to the advertiser. They don't own the airways. You do. That's what the FCC is there for, to protect your rights, okay? And so anyway, we get down. So what they don't tell you is as bad as what they do tell you. So let me just read this, and then I want to make sure you get this. Okay, down here. This powerful medium should be preparing people to deal with the problems of human survival, using television to elevate the mass level of education, to better understand why we no longer control our lives, and to use it for solving problems is truly using television in the public interest. They are custodians. The other people out there that run anything they want on the airways are only custodians of something that belongs to you. And you have the final word on what comes into your living rooms, and unless and until you, the viewing public, accept that responsibility, you will deserve what you get. If you are setting your children before a television screen without watching to see what they're viewing, if you are watching hour upon hour of programming that has no relevance to real problems facing our urban cities, educational systems, government, energy crisis, hunger, poverty, and environmental pollution, then you deserve to have your cities fail, children remain uneducated, and watch the world as we know it disintegrate. Have we disintegrated in Oakland? Are we killing each other? Did Malcolm X say before he died, hey Malcolm, my son's in a play called, I forget the name of the play, wonderful
Meeting?
play. Huh?
The Meeting?
Oh yeah, The Meeting, right. The Meeting. And in it, if you've seen it then, Malcolm says, and everybody gasps when they hear it, he says, heck Malcolm, the man has got us so programmed that we won't have to, he won't have to be killing us. We'll be killing each other. And everybody just gasps, because he said it, what, in the 40s or something, 50s. So, but my point is, he could see where we were headed, that we were being programmed against each other. That everything that with a black man and a black woman in it, he was talking down like she's some prostitute or something, or he's silly and stupid. He's not manly. all these movies. I had a friend that went to see the new one out with the guy that plays the